we are focusing on the speakers that can speak on their session. Obviously, if they were asked to speak, they know what they're talking about and they're great speakers. But can they do it virtually? Do they want to do it virtually? So there have been a few speakers that have just said, virtual is not my thing. And that's, hey, I totally respect that. If you're not going to give our attendees the same experience, then we love that you came forward to us and told us that, and we'll catch you on the stage next year when we're in person.
Welcome to the Modern Marketing Engine podcast, hosted by Bernie Borges. This is the podcast for the modern marketer who wants to hear from their peers in the trenches and the occasional analyst or rockstar influencer sharing strategies and tactics about what's working in modern marketing. Be sure to listen to the end of each episode for Bernie's summary and takeaways so you can plan your next move in your own modern marketing journey.
Hey there, welcome to episode 282 of the Modern Marketing Engine podcast. I'm Bernie Borges, Chief Customer Officer at Vengreso and your host. Hey, thanks for listening. Hey, my guest on this episode is Cathy McPhillips, Vice President of Marketing at the Content Marketing Institute, aka CMI. Cathy, welcome back to the Modern Marketing Engine podcast.
Thank you. This is 282. I wonder what I was last time I was here. It's been a while.
I know it's been, I failed to look it up because like your day, I go back to back from call to call. This is not a call, this is a podcast, but I did fail to look it up. I'm going to venture to guess it was about 30 plus episodes ago. Cause we do this either once a year or every other year. Cause I think it's been maybe 2 years, if I'm not mistaken. Stephanie was on last year for some discussion around Content Marketing World 2019, and I believe you were on for 2018. So we'll test my memory on
Thank
that.
you for having me back. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Well, let's begin with, I always like to begin for my listener who may not be familiar with the Content Marketing Institute. Why don't we begin there? Let's just refresh my listener. Who is the Content Marketing Institute?
CMI is a marketing education and training company. We are known for Content Marketing World, our flagship event that is usually held in the fall every year in Cleveland, Ohio. This year we're going online. And we also have another event, Content Tech Summit, which wrapped recently. And we've got a magazine, we've got daily blog posts, any content that you could imagine that would advance the practice of content marketing, CMI does it.
And you've been around roughly 10 years now, if I'm not mistaken?
Pretty close, yep.
Okay. And the magazine, you mentioned the magazine. Is it still in print?
It is not. This year we went digital for a number of reasons, but I love it this year because there are so many more interactive components to it. Where in the magazine, at the end of the article, we would say, go find out more about Bernie, and we'd put in a cmi.media short link. And those just weren't getting, it's just hard to go from print to digital, where now you can click at the end of the article and go to something else. So we're trying to find the joy in new opportunities to keep our customers engaged and be helpful for them.
I must say though, Cathy, I did like the print version. Very high quality. I mean, it just felt good in your hands, just one of those really, and also let's give it a name, right? It's the Chief Content Magazine or Chief Content Officer.
Chief Content Officer magazine. And we missed the print as well. I mean, it was really fun for us. And I don't know about you, but sitting down after a long day of being online for 8, 10, 12 hours, whatever it may be, and sitting down with something in your hands that, like, from a tactile standpoint, I really loved how it felt. And I do miss that. But like I said, we're just trying to find the positives right now.
Yeah, understand. Of course, hey, who hasn't shifted strategy in 2020? I think the answer would be nobody. Everybody has shifted some strategy in 2020. We don't have to state why, it's obvious. In fact, we're going to be talking about that. So that really leads us into what I invited you back to discuss, and that is your flagship annual conference, Content Marketing World. I want to just preface your commentary on it by my own commentary, Cathy, and that is I love, love, love the event. You know that I've been to every single one. This is the 10th anniversary, and I was there on the first one, and I haven't missed. I've got a perfect attendance, and it's because it's a fantabulous, I made that word up, by the way, fantabulous event. So tell us about this year's event, the 10th anniversary of Content Marketing World.
Well, this year's going to be different, but let me step back to last fall when JK Kalinowski and I, who's our creative director, we sat down and talk about this year's theme. And well before 2020, it was probably October, November, we were together over coffee and we talked about the theme Break the Rules. And with this being the 10th year, um, with people having documented content marketing strategies and us drilling that hard that people should document all of this with their teams and communicate with their teams. And we have frameworks and templates and calendars, which are all so important for a really successful content marketing program. Are people really veering off and doing different things? Just because we say you need to do something in a framework, it's only an idea. It's only one company's idea. So how can companies branch off, be creative, step out of their comfort zone for the sake of their businesses, for their personal growth, for their job happiness, and for building their brand? So that's how we wanted to kind of focus on 2020. So I think of Doug Kessler and his approach to content marketing, and Kathy Klotz's guest who wants us to improvise more with our content, and Ann Hanley who says, if you take your logo off of your marketing, will people know it's you? Just things like that, we got to, all these brands right now really, really have to step up and step out of the pack and differentiate themselves. And we want people to break the rules. And I think our speakers are ready for that challenge of bringing those case studies and successful programs to our attendees.
Yeah, well, I think it's a great opportunity for me to plug my session in 2020 because I'm going to be talking about something that's very near and dear to me. This is a podcast. This is episode 282. And so obviously I've been doing this for a little while. And I'm going to be talking this year about how you can use podcasting content and a podcast show to do lead generation. And, we've got a process and it's effective and it's kind of like baseball. Baseball players never bat 1,000, meaning they don't get a base hit every time they step up to the plate, right? So it's just about a batting average, but always being authentic in every episode. And so I'm going to be giving a whole plan on how we do that. So I'm excited. I think it is something that's unique and different. In fact, we call it account-based podcasting, and not too many people have even heard that phrase. So I'm excited to talk about that in the context of the theme "Break the Rules." So that's awesome.
Right. So
So
that brings us to 2020.
yes,
So we talked about break the rules, and as spring approached, or I guess not even spring, late winter approached, and we were getting more into the all of the ideas for break the rules and what that meant for programming and our networking and everything else. Then March hit and everything just kind of paused for a minute. So as we once we decided we were doing a virtual event, it really was, we sat down with our operations team, our programming team, our marketing team, and everyone and just said, what does this mean and what do our customers really need? So we had these long day-long sessions of Zoom calls just among our team at all of our homes and just trying to talk about that. And then we decided, we really should ask our attendees and our customers what they really want next year, what they really want in a virtual experience, because I think what people wanted in March versus what they're going to want in October is vastly different. Um, Zoom happy hours and quick Zoom meetings and things that were fun in March, we all have fatigue from all that. So we really wanted to make sure that people were willing to come to a virtual event and what they really, really needed. So a few of the biggest things that we heard from our attendees and from our customers, people that have never even come to the event. So we reached a few different groups of folks. One was they wanted access to speakers, whether within the platform itself or whether before or after, but they wanted a way to be able to sit through a session and talk to a speaker and say, I have questions. Because as you know, Bernie, when you're speaking at an event, your session's over, and there's usually a line of 10 to 15 people waiting to ask you just one question, how what they're
right,
doing applies to
right.
what you just talked about.
Yep.
And then being able to join discussions with like spending time with each other. And for me personally, our community, our tribe, our folks that we see once a year in person and we see online all the time, that time we get together once a year sustains us for the next 12 months.
Right.
And
It's precious.
I'm gonna miss that so much. So
Yeah.
we're trying to find some way that we can in some small way replicate that.
And the selfies, we enjoy those selfies, but I don't know if there's a way to do that on virtual.
Maybe, but I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I won't need to dig through 8,000 pictures this year, but it was very, very fun to go through those and see just all the amazing interactions we had over the past, every
Yeah.
single year. Pretty incredible.
Okay.
So with Content Tech Summit ending recently, I did ask about 10 of our friends and community members, I said, can you just sit through our event and just kind of tear it apart? Let us know what worked, what didn't work, and be as critical and as laser focused and hypercritical as you want, because we have 3 months now to tweak some things to make it an epic experience that our customers at this point have come to expect from CMI.
And
So
Kathy,
that
who did
was
you ask to attend this? CMI people or outside people outside of CMI?
people outside of CMI.
Okay,
I mean, our team was involved. Our team did sit through sessions. They were helping Monina, our community manager, make sure that every single session was covered from a social standpoint. So we were feeding her some social. So there were people from CMI in every session. Um, but to get to the really nitty gritty and uh, criticize our event, or constructively criticize our event, I should say, we did
sure.
ask people outside of our team. So the
Okay.
feedback they gave us was really positive, was really helpful. I mean, it was positive, saying the speakers were great. And ultimately, our programming is what differentiates CMI and Content Marketing World and Content Tech Summit from other events. That's something we're really, really proud of. But that doesn't get people to an event necessarily. We have to find other ways to make sure that people come to the event and want to stick around.
So, Kathy, for my listener, they don't hear the conversation you and I have before we press the record button. And I want to come back to something that we discussed in the virtual green room. That means before we press the record button. You said something really interesting that I want to bring into the recording. And you said that this is a virtual event called Content Marketing World, not Content Marketing World, a virtual event. If I'm saying that correctly. So either correct me or please clarify what you mean by that.
Yeah, basically, we're not trying to create the virtual version of Content Marketing World because, Bernie, as you know, we have hundreds of sessions. We have 14 concurrent tracks in a given day. We've got keynotes, we have lunch and learns, we have all these things. And for us to mimic that in October over 4 days for our events, no one wants that. Our
Right.
attendees don't have the capacity to do that when they're at home trying to deal with many other things. Our team doesn't. I mean, I'm not worried about our team so much, but even the heavy lift on our team's side to really run a successful event, it's just a lot. So we're focusing on tracks that make the most sense to do virtually. We are focusing on the speakers that can speak on their session. Obviously, if they were asked to speak, they know what they're talking about, and they're great speakers. But can they do it virtually? Do they want to do it virtually? So there have been a few speakers that have just said, virtual is not my thing. And that's, hey, I totally respect that. If you're not going to give our attendees the same experience, then we love that you came forward to us and told us that, and we'll catch you on the stage next year when we're in person.
Right.
So we're trying to find the right mix of all of that. And then we're also looking at ways that we can extend Content Marketing World longer than 4 days. We're looking at doing some community activities beforehand. We're looking at doing a sneak peek day-long webinar series involving some of our speakers, just so our attendees and prospects can see what's coming up. And then we're also talking about taking some of our tracks and making them happen in November and December, just so our attendees have a chance to catch their breath, maybe take a month to see, to go through some things they learned over the main 4 days. And then, okay, let's jump into something else now. And what have they learned? And at the very, very least, they've got fresh eyes and fresh ears to listen to more content.
So the event itself is currently spread over 2 days, right? October. Well, the website says October 13 through 16, so that's not 2 days.
So if it was in person, what it would have been was October 13th would have been our discipline specific workshops that are a couple hours each, and then Wednesday and Thursday, the middle 2 days, would have been the main conference that you're speaking of.
Right. Right.
And then Friday would have been our industry forums. So after the first 3 days, on Friday, usually when we're in person, we'll take healthcare, for example. There's a healthcare industry specific forum on Fridays that we have some healthcare experts come in and say, okay, everything you learned over the past 3 days is great, except we have HIPAA, we have regulations, we have this, we have this. And here's how we took that and made everything you just learned work in our industry. So all of our industry specific speakers are coming in with expertise in their specific area, which helps our attendees in manufacturing and financial and healthcare, et cetera.
And you're still planning to do that?
We are doing the workshops and the forums as video on demand. So you can watch that before the show, you can watch it after the show, or in the evenings if you really wanted to during the main conference. And we're stretching out main conference over 4 days. And just so we're not giving people 5 or 6 sessions over the course of a day when by the end of the day, they just don't want to sit in their computer anymore. So we're trying to stretch it out and expand it. And one big thing we're focusing on is we've got a heavy Europe contingent, and we want to be as mindful as we can to say, all right, we're doing our keynotes maybe at noon Eastern so that California can get up and watch the keynotes. And so Europe can watch before they shut down for the day. And just trying to be mindful of that because it's important. It's important to catch
Yeah,
some things real time. I mean, video, post show video is great and watching on demand is great when you have the time, but being in the moment is really important to us.
I agree. I was going to ask you about that because yeah, attending some of these sessions like the keynotes live, I mean, there's nothing like that. So you've just answered the question. So just to give it back to you, so you're doing it at like noon Eastern so that you can catch as many time zones as you can possibly catch. Can't catch them all, but
Right,
you can
and
catch
we
many.
may start some earlier in the day, but the keynotes and some of the bigger things, we wanna make sure that as many people as possible can catch it real time.
Right, right. What about? Um, it's kind of a rhetorical question, but you probably have an answer for it. One of the things that every attendee of content marketing world years past knows really well and has fond memories of is the evening events. So, is there anything planned in any way, shape, or form that could possibly address that, or is just not possible in a virtual event environment?
Well, we tried for Content Tech Summit, we did a little mixology class with Robert Rose. So it was basically a glorified Zoom happy hour, but, we did it it was 2 o'clock in the afternoon in California, so it wasn't, very, very alcohol focused. But Robert did show a cocktail and a mocktail, and Robert's known for his tequila drinks, so he did share some information on how do you tell different tequilas and what do they taste like and what are their uses. And then he showed us a drink he made, and then he did a mocktail version of it. And that was really fun. And we had some really great conversations with our attendees. But I think beyond that, I want to make sure that we're having some times during the event that we can have like birds of a feather meetups where we can have small group discussions or we can have one-on-one conversations where attendees have the opportunity to meet together or we have larger group events in the evening, whether it be a comedian or something that we can give someone tickets to. It's not going to have the networking component necessarily, but
Sure.
can we provide something of value to the attendee that's just going to be fun, get their mind off of content marketing for a minute, give them a chance just to clear their head. Um, but it's really important to me and then Monina Wagner, who runs our social media. How can we engage our community, especially in a time when we all really need each other?
Yeah, no kidding. That's an understatement. What about one of the things that you've always done a great job of from year one is like the main exhibit area where all the vendors are and the booths and all that and all the orange cakes and candies and orange drinks and everything's orange and and it's just a fun environment, lots of networking, and of course all the exhibitors are there, so can go up to them and talk to them and they get leads from that. So how are you addressing that in the virtual environment?
So we're thinking of well, we are doing this. We have our expo hall, which is we're calling it our solutions hub. And it's not really an expo hall. You can't go to some screen where you can navigate with your mouse and you can see all the booths and you can go click on something. We're not going to do that because one, it slows down your computer and people just want to go and get in there and get what they want and get out. So we're working with our sponsors to make sure that our attendees know exactly what every sponsor does. So you can go into this little quiz and you can say, are you small business or mid-size? Are you enterprise? Click on that. Are you industry specific? What are you looking for this year? What's something you want to focus on in the next 12 months? And we're going to be able to say to you, here are the 3 booths you have to go to, just so we can make sure we're making it as efficient as possible for the attendee. And then we're working with the sponsors to say, here's what you need to be doing with these people, and here's what they're coming to expect. I actually just recently worked with our sales team to create like a 20-page ebook that talks about how to work with attendees in a virtual environment. Just it's not the same thing as being with them in person. You can't, throw a gadget at them and you can't talk to them as they're walking by. You really have to find a way to suck them in. So bringing your best content to your booth so they can download that and just trying to find ways to make sure that we're getting our attendees making our sponsors happy first of all, but giving our attendees the experience they came for. And one of the things that I really want to focus on from our attendee standpoint is I want our attendees to come to the event saying, here's what my next 6 to 12 months look like. and which sessions do I need to attend, and which booths do I need to attend. So I want the attendees to come into to Content Marketing World craving time with our sponsors versus our sponsors trying to get the attention of our attendees. So I think we can do that. If you know, here's what I want to work on and here's who I need to help me or what I need to help me, I think we can really make it work.
I like that. That makes a lot of sense. That's a good experience for the attendee. It's a good experience for the exhibitors. So everybody wins. I like that. I like that. What about something else we talked about in the digital green room, and that is studying other virtual events. Give my listeners some insight into, some of the planning that you and your team have been going through by studying other virtual events.
Oh, yes. So we have a list of hundreds of events that collectively our team has watched in a virtual environment. And there have been some things that we really liked, some things that we didn't want to do, some things we've seen over and over and over again that we just didn't want to be another person that does the exact same thing another event does. And there have even been some people that have said, "I really liked this," and the next comment is, "You did?" Because I really didn't like that at all. So we've had this opportunity to really banter with our team and talk about what we want this event to look like. But we've not only looked at marketing events, but I've looked at cycling events, and fitness events, and other people have looked at events that aren't always marketing events because who knows what we might find in other experiences. We're kind of we're in our own little uh, tunnel of looking at the same things and
Yeah,
all the time. So let's branch out and let's find some new experiences and what can we bring to our attendees. So we have this massive Google Doc that we all dive into regularly, just jotting in some notes, jotting in some links, and talking about things we liked or that we liked, but we maybe could even do better, which has been
right.
fun.
Cool. Cool. Before I segue to my summary, is there anything we haven't talked about, Kathy, as it relates to your planning? What you're planning, what you're expecting, just anything related to the 10th anniversary version of Content Marketing World, which happens to be a virtual event this year.
I think we want attendees to leave there with the ability to create some just epic content experiences for their customers. So our idea about what we want Content Marketing World to be hasn't changed. We're just doing it a little differently.
Hmm. Understood. All right, fantastic. Well, we're at a point where, as you know, because you have been here before, I'm going to do a summary, and I've been taking my notes diligently. I've been asked by some listeners, "How do you do that?" Well, I take notes. It's not there's no silver bullet. It's called note taking, and I'm just going to kind of hit the treetops on things that we discussed, and I do it as a recap for the listener and also for you, Kathy, so that maybe there's something you want to elaborate on, maybe we missed something, or if there's anything that I may maybe mischaracterize in any way. It's an opportunity for you to just jump in with your final commentary and give us that. So we started our conversation with a reintroduction to Content Marketing Institute, a marketing education and events company. And your flagship event, of course, is the Content Marketing World this year in its 10th anniversary. But you also have a publication called Chief Content Officer Magazine, which is used to be in print, now it's in digital. You also have the Content Tech Summit, which recently took place in August. So I think that hits the treetops on the main things about CMI. And then, of course, we focused our conversation on this year's, the 10th anniversary, 2020 Content Marketing World, with the theme being break the rules. Love that. That is so fantastic. You gave me a little background on that and how you really sat down with JK, your graphics designer and a friend of mine, and said, are people really following the rules or the plan that they set in place, given everything that's been happening in 2020? So you spent a lot of time, you and the team spent a lot of time really thinking about it, talking about it. And then, of course, when you made the decision, which was, of course, the only decision to go virtual, you said, okay, this really isn't the content marketing world as we know it delivered virtually because it can't be replicated exactly the same way because of the physical aspects of the event, but it's a virtual version. It's a virtual event that happens to be content marketing world. And you said you really focused on the tracks that are going to make sense to be delivered virtually. You also focused on the speakers who embrace speaking virtually. You said some said, "Hey, virtual is not for me." And then you also reached out to people and said, "What are you looking for?" And you said some of the things you heard was that people want access to the speakers, whether it's within the platform, before or after. They want to be able to join discussions with like-minded, peers. They still want to be able to do some level of networking. And having recently conducted your Content Tech Summit, you were able to get some feedback from that, and that was both feedback from your, as I understand it, Cathy, internal CMI people, as well as other people that you asked to critique it and give you some feedback, and you got some good feedback from that. You also mentioned that you really are focusing on the programming on the virtual event and how it's spread across multiple days, so that people don't have to be, sitting in front of the computer for 3-4 days in a row, which is a pretty hard thing to do for most of us, and how you're going to do things like workshops and forums as video on demand. And you also said that for some of the live sessions, you're paying very close attention to the scheduling so you can catch as many time zones as you can, because in the physical event, you've got people that come in from many different countries and obviously many different time zones. You made mention that there's some things that are in the works that might be fun and interesting. Things like cocktail drink concoctions with Robert Rose. I think you said he did that at the Content Tech Summit, and wouldn't be surprised if you twist his arm to do it again for CMW. He's pretty well known for that. And then you talked about how you're working with sponsors, creating the Solutions Hub, and how you provided a quiz for attendees to fill out so that they can tell the sponsors, company size, what industry they're in, what are they looking for, and then you, CMI, will recommend to the attendees what exhibits they should visit based on the input that was provided. You said that you've even provided a 20-page ebook for the vendors, the sponsors, on how to work with attendees in a virtual environment, because it's very different than the physical environment. And I love what you said, that you want the attendees to come to the event knowing which sessions they want to attend and which exhibits, which sponsors they want to visit. You said you want the attendees to leave with the ability to create epic content from the content that they experienced, the sessions, as well as the sponsors that they visited. So I'll leave my summary at that. Cathy, is there anything that you would like to add?
I think that is a pretty impressive note-taking that you just did and that you recapped. So I think you covered it.
I covered it. All right. Well, I know that I'm going to state the obvious here, Cathy. A podcast is a piece of content that lives indefinitely. We are talking about an event that is happening in October. Let me come back to the website here. October of 2020. Certainly, people will be listening to this before that, so I want to encourage them to check out the website. Where do you want to point people to learn more about the event and, of course, register for it?
Yes, contentmarketingworld.com. Super easy. Our main website is contentmarketinginstitute.com, in which you could get to Content Marketing World from there as well. And if you are interested in finding out more information about CMI in any capacity, especially our events, feel free to reach out to me. I'm on Twitter at C McPhillips, and you can find me on LinkedIn. It's just Cathy McPhillips, no space in the URL. Pretty easy to find.
Yep. And my listener knows that we will link that up in the show notes, and you spell Cathy with a C.
I do.
But again, we will link that up in our show notes page at vengreso.com. Well, Cathy, thank you so much. I love making this an annual thing. So I guess I'll see you virtually in a matter of weeks at Content Marketing World 2020. I'm excited about it. And again, thank you so much for joining me back here on this episode of the Modern Marketing Engine podcast.
Thank you so much. I love all the support you give us every year, and we couldn't have the event without you, that's for sure.
Hey, that's a wrap for this episode of the Modern Marketing Engine podcast. If you're not subscribed yet, I invite you to hit the subscribe button on your favorite podcast player. We're available on all the popular podcast listening channels. And hey, I'd love it if you would give the Modern Marketing Engine podcast a rating or review in Apple Podcasts. That really helps others to discover it. We publish a show notes page for every episode with links to the resources that were mentioned during the interview. Just visit our podcast page at vengreso.com, and that's VENGRESO. And remember, just one S in Vengreso. Hey, while you're there, sign up to get the podcast delivered to your inbox each week. And be sure to check out the Modern Selling Podcast, hosted by our CEO, Mario Martinez Jr. Hey, I hope that you'll tune in again next week for another inspiring interview to help you thrive on your modern marketing journey.